Cuckoo lives up to its name while delivering thrills, confusion, action, and chaos in a film with a solid protagonist, a great villain, and a wacky plot. Strange visions, humanoid creatures, and horrific sounds play into a majority of the horror in this stylistic piece. The question is, does it go too far with its story, or is this the right blend of madness? Hello and welcome to Studio Cinema Saturday, the show where we review films old and new, the ones you don't like and the ones that you do. I'm your host, Kael and I'm joined by my co-host, Jackson Hamm, and we're going cuckoo for this review of Cuckoo.
This film was made by Neon, which put out Long Legs this year as well. It's directed by Tilman Singer. The cast is as follows: Hunter Schafer as Gretchen, Dan Stevens as Eric Koenig, Dan Bluthart as Henry, Mila Liu as Alma, Martin Sokas as Luis, and Jessica Henwick as Beth. We're going to start off this review of Cuckoo with spoiler-free thoughts, so let's talk about Cuckoo.
My initial reaction walking out of this movie was, I don't know that I grasped all that. And was trying to figure out what was there to grasp. I do think this is a horror film that works. The scares work. It does get thrilling. It gets a little creepy. You feel like there's a family-themed story going on. But just the overall progression that's in the works, I don't know that I really connected too much to it.
I was at least entertained by it. I came out and I was like, that's not a movie I dislike. There was never a moment where I was like, I really hope this ends. It actually felt really short.
Some cool facts about this film. It was shot on 35mm film, just like Long Legs. It is a partnership film between Germany and the United States.
Yeah, similar to certain things that happen in this movie.
It does play kind of into the plot there. Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens give amazing performances here.
I thought they were both great. They played their roles perfectly. I really like Dan Stevens' villain. He's creepy in all the best ways.
Really liked their two characters. Maybe that was the highlight of the plot for me, was their characters and kind of the weird battle they're having throughout the film, the battle of tension.
One last thing to say is I think characters are stronger than the plot in this movie, perhaps.
I think so too. And more style than substance is something I think this film maybe drastically kind of lacks, is substance. I really love the style, but the plot doesn't connect with me, so I wanted to kind of put these two films together, Long Legs and Cuckoo. Which one do you like more? And a quick why.
For me, it's definitely Long Legs. I think it defeats the whole style over substance debate, because I think Long Legs had a really good story and just overall played very well together.
I'm the same boat. I take Long Legs for strictly plot reasons, but I also think I liked the style just a little bit more. I think it maybe takes making its own style and takes that to maybe a further level than this does, while this film is very stylistic still, and I do like that. We are going to go straight into spoilers here. We're going to talk about the movie, maybe go into a little bit of explained here. I know there are some people who are maybe a little unclear on the plot, so I am going to just briefly kind of break us through the plot. We pick up on Hunter Schafer's character, Gretchen. She is moving to Germany with her dad. Her mom just passed away, and her dad is creating these resorts for Dan Stevens' character. After that, we get the scene with Alma. She walks in on Gretchen playing music. She shows that she has the cuckoo ability. She kind of puts us in our first time loop, and we are kind of thrust into a plot that we know nothing about yet.
Very much so. You get that first kind of time loop type of thing, and I remember sitting there like, what the hell is going on right now? It's very much just the first time you experience it, you're like, what is this?
Right.
And of course you discover it as the plot goes along. I think this plot is very akin to a mystery with a detective at its lead. Gretchen kind of plays that character of the one forging the path ahead. Of course, eventually she gets Henry, her kind of figure out all this because he has some kind of sagely knowledge, in a sense, for her character.
Henry comes in telling her that he is a cop. We find out later that he was not a cop anymore. He's there trying to figure out what happened to his wife. We get the scene where they go on the stakeout. Kind of learn how everything works in this scene.
That's the laying out how this works type of scene.
We see the Cuckoo come in. She goes to plant the egg, they call it. And, I've been refraining from calling these things cum monsters. The cum monster! We'll stick with Cuckoo.
Yeah.
For professionalism's sake.
Professionalism's sake.
This is a resort for couples kind of going on their honeymoon.
Yeah.
And so we figure out that they are planting the egg in the woman. If you can get the Cuckoo to kind of put the guy in the time loop, he won't be able to protect the woman. She'll be able to come in, put the girl in a hypnotic state, plant the egg. The honeymoon couple was then supposed to get down to business that night and fertilize the egg for the Cuckoo to be born. The twist is, we find out this happened to Gretchen's parents.
In that scene, you're like, oh, wow, her little sister is the Cuckoo. And then from there, we figure out kind of what the entire resort is. It's not a resort, it's a nature preserve to expand this. I believe Dan Stevens' character, Herr Koenig, calls it like a dying creature.
One of my biggest problems with the film, I think, is that we never find out why he's creating these creatures.
No, he's just kind of there to be the villain.
I think I've kind of got the metaphor here. When I was looking up themes for the movie, reproductive health and rights continued to come up. And this is
true.
This is something that I don't necessarily think I grabbed from the film, but as I think about it, the Cuckoos are kind of representing a human who has lost their right to reproduce.
In a way, yeah.
Has lost their ability to reproduce. And that we see it sends this creature, this monster, through this horrific state. And they're no longer able to create life. And when you take that away from something, I think you do put it in an extreme circumstance where you are kind of in this survival mode, and I think the Cuckoos live in this state of survival.
Yeah, they kind of, and it could also be like a human meddling thing, because it gets real icky the more you think about what Dan Stevens' character is doing to the people who come to this resort. His character and his team very much, and it gets even sicker because his team almost isn't even doing it for the expansion of this, dying creature that is going extinct, essentially. It's more or less to just kind of see how it all works.
Preserve it. Observe it.
Observation for the sake of, no matter how terrible it can get, no matter how many people could get harmed, just to see what happens, essentially.
He calls himself a conservationist.
Exactly.
He's just trying to conserve what's there. And, I think I still just have a problem of the why of all this. Like, these are creatures who are violent by nature.
It seems that way, yeah.
I would say. So I don't know why we're trying to protect them. After, learning all of this, we then find out that Henry wasn't a cop. He's there trying to help his wife. Everything leads us to this climax scene in the hospital where Henry wants to kill Alma because he wants to kill all of the Cuckoos because he lost his wife. And he wants to make sure that's not going to happen to anybody else. Understand his character. Koenig wants to kill Gretchen.
Yes.
Because she's trying to take Alma, and Alma's his last shot at the Cuckoos in his head. So we get this kind of standoff between all of them, and we see Gretchen kill the mother Cuckoo in this scene as well. And, Alma uses her Cuckoo ability to save them and get them out of there. I really think the scene is really powerful where Henry and Koenig are kind of walking along and they're just at a standstill and they have to watch them leave. And, it's a pretty decent climax to the film, but it answers really no questions for us.
The movie just kind of ends in a way, and I gotta say, this climax in this hospital where they're keeping Alma, I think it's a really good setup for a climax, because Gretchen kind of gets there and with Henry, and then that kind of goes sour as his bias starts to come through because she's finally starting to see Alma as a little sister to be protected and taken away from all of this screwed up stuff. That falls apart, and then you have Koenig there, and then the blonde lady shows up, so it's kind of like everything going to shit at once with Gretchen having to deal with it all to find Alma and get her out of there.
Right, it's like we do deal with a lot of the loose ends in this climax action-packed scene, which was fun to watch. Let's talk about the family. You mentioned the sisterhood aspect of the film. I think it is really important because when Gretchen sneaks off in the beginning of the film to try to leave, she calls her little sister a bitch. She's like, she doesn't talk, and that's weird. She's a bitch. Like,
yeah.
And you see that she has no connection whatsoever to this little kid.
You get to understand where she comes from because of her mother passing away and her dad kind of moving on rather fastly, it seems, in the context of the movie. So she's very much rebelling against that, like being like, no, you should mourn longer like I have. As the movie goes along, you kind of see this moment where her mother's stuff gets returned to them, her deceased mother's belongings, and you get a voicemail box that Gretchen had kind of been leaving voicemails to comfort herself, and you get one from her little sister. That's where a switch starts to get flipped for Gretchen, essentially.
Yeah.
And it becomes more of a sisterly bond, and that is paid off in the end.
You know, there's some really cool music sequences
Definitely.
in this film. Some cool music used. Love scenes where she's playing the bass.
Definitely, yeah. She's a musician in this movie. She has a band back in the United States
Love
that she plays
that.
bass for. And whenever a character is musically inclined, usually you're going to get some cool use of music throughout the film.
Let's go ahead and talk about just the mother, the Cuckoos in general. I think maybe the look almost doesn't pass for me, because there's the moments where the Cuckoo's all dressed up with the sunglasses and kind of the nicer clothes, almost a goofy look.
It's definitely very odd. I think maybe it also kind of serves to throw you off what is actually going on, because I feel like the first time you see that, you're thinking, this is like some sort of demon ghost lady of some sort, and she kind of is throughout.
Yeah.
But it's not that it's this weird creature.
Humanoid,
cuckoo. Yeah.
I thought the Cuckoos were slightly weird. The scene when she has the glasses removed at the end and she just kind of looks normal with strain marks on her face and maybe some redness. It was just like, yeah, I think maybe they could have done something cooler with the look of the Cuckoos, but maybe it was by design that they look very humanoid. And maybe that speaks more to like connecting the reproductive issues. I do buy what they're trying to sell.
It could be just part of this aspect, the whole look thing of me and you being like, it's interesting, we don't know if it works, but maybe it's supposed to be that way. It could be that whole grasping thing, and hey, this is a moment for you need to be involved in this too, guys. Tell us what you thought, because we're sitting here airing our thoughts out. Tell us what you thought about it, you know.
Please, in the comment section, we really want to hear from you guys. Because
no answer's wrong. Go for it. Shoot for the moon.
We have been talking all day about filming this video and not having much to say because we felt like the movie was weird and it was hard to grasp some of the deeper meanings. But, you know, both of us enjoyed the general kind of thrill and scares, and the general plot that's there is fine. It's just not that mind-blowing, you know. I think of films that have been doing this same kind of thing in the recent years, and these are films that I bring up constantly, but like, I would talk about Longlegs, or like The Lighthouse, or Get Out, Hereditary. You know, these are films with like big scares, and you know, not all of them have the big scares, but they all do have those intense, deeper meanings. And I feel like this gives you like the medium-sized scares, and the deeper meaning is a little hard to pick up on.
Yeah.
Especially because we've only seen this film one time.
True.
Yeah, I think it just makes for a bit of a unique experience that wasn't my favorite watch, but we both enjoyed watching the movie. And, you know, we'll see what continues to come out of Neon, but I am excited for, you know, whatever it is.
The more film studios out there that can do stuff that isn't, you know, giant, big budget, Avengers, Robert Downey Jr.'s coming back to play Glup Shido III, type of movies, the better.
Go ahead and wrap this up. We had a great time talking about Cuckoo. Please let us know what you thought about Cuckoo. We are begging you. Hope you enjoyed this video. We have more videos like it. Studio Cinema Saturday runs every single Saturday. We will see you here next week. We have Television Tuesday that runs on Tuesdays where we're doing Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Invincible, all kinds of TV shows for you. We have 3 horror short films of our own coming out in October. We can't wait for these to come out. That's what we're really doing here, is trying to make some movies of our own. So give those a watch. We have some friends over at Sloth Cinema that we make films with. They have a film that just came out as well, Michael's Not Real. It's seeing some festival success, so we're super happy for our guys over there, and we hope you're enjoying all of that content coming out, and we'll see you in the next video.
Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo! What the hell?